What makes you your highest self?
It's real simple. Making me my highest self is being connected to my body without interruption. I spent my whole life, like everybody else, dealing with stress, anxiety, fear, dealing with EMF, chemicals, chemical intrusion, vaccinations, all the stuff that disrupts us from being connected to our bodies. And I spent the last decade, well, 3 decades, but the last decade intensively taking all that stuff out. And there's a point where you actually hit it. And when you hit it, you'll know it. And your life changes forever. And that's simply just defined by there's no interruption between the brain and the body.
Love that so much. And it's amazing how so many of us are dealing with these interruptions on a daily basis and we have no idea and we blame it on different things or try to use these creams and oils. And there can be such a deep cause that so many of us are dealing with that just that one fix changes everything, which we'll dive into.
We'll dive into for sure. But I just want to say, I really appreciate what you're doing because you look at it from the science and then the interaction with the science. And most people are just going on fads or beliefs and whatever. And, I think that for a long time, if you take a look at Vedic and what Vedic did is was really about the lifestyle and the food. And if you look at Chinese medicine, it's really about the meridians and the fixing. And when you combine and mesh the two together, which we've done very well here, you start to be able to really help people impact them at a high level because our food is our medicine and we are just a collection of what we eat. And if we're going to fix an organ without looking at what we're eating, then it's not going to work. And that's part of the problem. People want to get things fixed, but they don't want to change their lives.
So true. Yes, it has to be as simple as the foods we eat and as deep as functionally changing our bodies and shifting the way that everything is structured, which you guys do on both levels. So I want to talk about the digestive issues. I mean, I feel like our generation, everyone has some sort of digestive issue, especially I see bloating, constipation, etc. So can you please tell us what is the cause of this rampant digestive epidemic?
There's a lot of causes, and that's part of the problem is that you can't nail it down to one specific thing. If you try to nail it down to one specific thing, you're going to miss everything else. And the body's an entire organism that needs to be treated as such. But some of the major things are just really, really simple things. We're eating food that wasn't designed to be in our body. We are not designed to have chemicals in our body. End of story. No argument. There is no reason why we should have. Everything that we have chemically is a copy from something in nature. So one of the best examples I give people, things like aspirin. Aspirin as far as a pharmacological product is pretty benign. It just makes your stomach bleed. But it also calms you down. But if you take, like Wish Garden, for example, one of the products we have here, they'll use birch bark. And if you use white willow bark. White willow bark is the same as aspirin, but it does not make the stomach bleed. And it actually works in 15 to 20 seconds as opposed to 20 minutes.
I didn't know aspirin makes your stomach bleed. That's really scary.
Well, don't be too scared about it. I mean, it does. It's a small bleeding in the stomach. But what I'm saying is if you had a headache, you can use white willow bark.
Yeah.
And it's natural. And this is more where I think your generation and where your market's heading to is what can we do for ourselves? I don't want to wait till I'm sick to do something. I want to do something. I want to catch it in advance. And it's really starting to understand our bodies, and it starts with digestion. So let's break digestion into 2 parts. People say, well, I go to the bathroom every day, so I'm digesting okay. That's not true. And I'm not bloated, so I'm digesting okay. Again, that's not true necessarily. Digestion happens in the stomach. Processing of the food happens in the intestines. And if it doesn't get processed in the stomach properly, when it moves to the small intestines, then if it's like, for example, if we're too alkaline and we put meat into our stomach, and our stomach has got a pH of 2. So our stomach has to have a pH of 1. And if it's a pH 2, 50% of your food's not being digested by the time it hits your small intestines. Well, then it spends too much time in your small intestines. And that's where you're starting to get the backup in the small intestines. And that's where all of the autoimmune disease problems are coming from. And then on top of it, your generation has something that no other generation in the history of the world has experienced. You were born into toxicity. So when we test children are 8 or 9, 10 years old, they'll have fatty livers. And their livers look like a 50-year-old who's been working and doing a normal job and drinking on weekends, and they're like 10 years old. And that's part of the problem. So a lot of the digestive issues right now are imbalances in between alkalinity, mineralization in the body, and also imbalances in our interaction with our environment. And then the last part is we're born toxic.
Well, that is just so heartbreaking that kids are just born into toxicity when, I feel like all of us, we try so hard. I notice in myself, I'm like, I eat salads and all the greens. Like, why do I still have these issues? And it's past that. It's what was that soil like? What were the chemicals that were put into that soil,
Correct.
et cetera?
Yes.
Where are the minerals? The fact that we have so many fewer minerals in the exact same foods as we did even 50 years ago, that, it can really feel like an uphill battle to just be able to get enough nutrients these days.
Yeah, because I have people all the time, well, I try to eat organic. There isn't a try. Either you are or you're not. End of story. If you're not eating organic, every time you put something in your body, that takes time for the body to process the chemical. So, yeah, it's better if you have no option or no choice to do the best that you can. But if you have the option and choice, there should be nothing that stops you from getting what you need. Food is our medicine, as we said. And food and we are a collection of everything that we eat. So eventually, if we have sickness, it has to do with the food or the dysregulation of the processing of that food is why we're sick. You think about it. We only have about 19 or so monogenetic diseases. The number might not be exact, right? But every disease after that, those ones means if you have the disease, or you have the gene, you have the disease. But every disease past that point is affected by stress. So stress is what is the dysregulator that causes you to get cancer if you have a breast cancer gene. And that's a really common one in your generation right now. Like with almost half the women having breast cancer, it's scary.
And you were saying how almost all of the millennial women have the same issues that come into Human Garage. Can you explain what you see?
So we started, if we take a step back and go back, let's say 2 years ago, the majority of our clients would be 45 to 65 years old. That's been pretty consistent since I've been in the business. About a year ago, we started being inundated by women under the age of 35, to the point it became 2/3 of our business overnight. And
I was one of them.
You were one of them. It was actually about the time. Yeah, it's about the time you started coming in. We started seeing all these young women. So we spent the last year trying to figure out why are they all coming, and we started putting up their charts and looking at their lab work, looking at their treatment results, and we started to notice patterns. And one of the patterns, which was incredible, was the symptomatic pattern. As 100% of the women that have come to the Human Garage under the age of 35 have had autoimmune symptoms. And it starts off with eczema, rashes, rosacea. And that's why we always ask you where it is on your skin, because we can tell what organ's suffering by where it lands on the skin. So skin placement is very important. We don't just randomly get a zit on our face. It's on a certain part of our face for a certain reason.
Yes.